Welcome back to episode 9 of the Void Century podcast. This is Ed, along here with Adam. Glad to see our Nakama returning and listening to us talk about our favorite manga, One Piece. Getting right to it then, let's start off by going over this week's chapter 976, Begging Your Pardon. Adam, would you like to start the chapter summary?
Sure, so to dig right in, we first start in on Kinemon kind of getting hounded by the scabbards. They're all harassing him because they know that Kinemon thought that it was Tokage Port. So they're kind of just like, hey Kinemon, come on, be real with us. You obviously thought it was Tokage Port. It was just by the grace of good luck that everything was saved. And Kinemon responds, perhaps I'm going to die in the battle ahead. It feels like I've just used up all of my luck. The scabbards, especially Kiku, respond that we've all been channeling our luck through you. You're our comrade. Of course, we're going to go ahead and give you our luck. They also say that they won't let Kinemon die alone, and they make a pact to die together. Kinemon goes ahead and raises his katana because they won the first battle, and they all cheer that the first battle has been won. They vow to avenge Odin together. So this really shows like the resolve of the scabbards. Beast pirates prepare their cannons, and then we see them make like a swift retreat. We see Kanjuro prepared to use his devil fruit, and he prepares to contact Orochi and give them the intel of this first battle. And here we also see that the Beast Pirates tried to contact Onigashima. However, they're too wrapped up in the happenings going on at the Fire Festival right now. They're probably drinking and celebrating their alliance.
So next we see Kawamatsu just dive into the water, and he comes out just swinging right away at Kanjuro. So they make an initial clash, and Kawamatsu is trying to rescue Momo, but Kanjuro already had a swan created out of ink, which allows him to lift off with Momo, and while he's ascending, he yells out that he's going to kill Hiyori to Kawamatsu. And Kawamatsu just looks stunned and shocked. And you gotta remember that after the burning of Oda Castle, Hiyori was originally taken care of by Kawamatsu. So yeah, he's gonna take it a little bit more hard because he has a really close bond with Hiyori. So that kind of ties into our mind games aspect that we were talking about, or with Kanjuro. He's already starting that right now. Next Kinemon notices how skillfully the crane is drawn, because it's just like a perfect crane. Amazing quality crane. It looks like a real thing. And compared to the birds that he would draw in the past that looked really poorly drawn and would wash away with any sort of water. And Kinemon also notes that this one probably wouldn't wash away, just like we saw with his ink clone from the last chapter. It didn't wash away when it was in the rain. So Kanjuro starts flying away with Momo. He taunts the scabbards and say that they'll never reach Onigashima and they will never be able to defeat Kaido. Momo cowers, asks for help, and Luffy looks towards the sky asking where Momo and Kanjuro are going. We see in the background Samurai starting to freak out over the capture of Momo. We see Sanji lift off of the Sunny by skywalking to save Momo from Kanjuro. While he's doing that, he's talking with Robin and noting that Kanjuro turned out to be the traitor. And Chopper also seems to notice that, and he yells at Luffy saying, you should save Momo, like Kanjuro is the traitor, and he's kidnapping Momo. Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji attempt to save Momo while Kanjuro is flying off with him. Then we see a large, dark cloud in the sky. Kinemon tells Sanji to turn back because he's got bad feelings about that cloud. I mean, it does look really ominous. So it is revealed that Kanjuro is producing this ink cloud with his hair, and the cloud spawns ink arrows that shoot down from the sky. It looks like the Ukiyo portrait evening shower, as the arrows of ink rain is just kind of raining down on the rebels.
So in this moment, Momo is kind of like begging Kanjuro to stop. We see arrows raining down on everybody, and Momo's like, Kanjuro, if you keep doing this, everybody's gonna die. And we see Kanjuro's like, yeah, dude, that's right. Everybody's finally gonna die. And we actually see a panel on the deck of the Sunny where Sanji, of course, is shielding Nami from these ink arrows. And we see Kanjuro have like a monologue that says, your father Odin and your mother Toki delayed fate of the scabbards and the fate of the Kozuki clan for 20 years by dangling hope in front of the eyes of them. When in actuality, like, you're their hope and savior, and you're just a little kid who's like afraid of heights. Like, you're nothing. This rebellion's gonna be squashed immediately. And we see see here that Kanjuro is like, yeah, you're not Odin. Odin's so much better than you'll ever be. And we see Momo here actually kind of like swallow his pride, and he's like, you know, first of all, if anybody knows who I am, I definitely am aware that I'm not Odin. And in this moment, Momo actually does something out of character. He has a complete change of character, and he yells out to everybody from the back of this crane. He's like, hey, I don't want you guys to come after me. The enemy knows that you guys are going to try to come after me, and they're going to use that to defeat us. So I want you guys to attack Onigashima. I want you to destroy Kaido and Orochi and protect the country of Wano. And we see like the rebels on the deck. They're like all freaking out and going hard eyes over Momo. They're like, oh my god, he really is our lord. What a manly thing to say. And we see Luffy kind of look at him, and he's like, oh my god, you know, Momo's finally stepping up and doing what he needs to do and actually being a man about the whole situation. So we see Luffy yell up to Momo, and he's like, that's right, Momo, you're such a cowardly dumb little brat. You're just a little kid that talks too much with a top knot. We see the samurai. They're like, oh my god, who does that guy think he is? I want to kill him. And we see Luffy shout to Momo. He goes, find a way to survive and we'll go and rescue you because we're pals. And Momo's just crying as he flies off with Kanjuro.
Yeah, so Luffy gets back on the Sunny, and they say that the Beast Pirates are preparing their escape because there's only one ship left and it's running away. The Straw Hats sunk the other, and I think Denjiro cut down one of the other ones. I'm not sure what happened with that one. But there are some rebel ships that are damaged, and some people have died. So at this point, Shinobu apologizes to Kinemon, saying that she let Momo get captured. And Kinemon is like, no, it's okay. Like, you don't have to worry about this. There's more important things to worry about, is that you're okay. So, like, we can still keep saving Momo. Raizo starts yelling at Denjiro because he's like, how did your face change so much? Denjiro's just like, yo, like, it's okay, like, I'll tell you about it later, but right now we gotta focus on hurrying and rescuing Momo. Law starts to yell at the samurai to get off of his ship, and he says that his submarine ship is not a hotel for samurai. And either the samurai are just intentionally oblivious, or they're actually this oblivious, but they're just like thanking him for his hospitality, which upsets Law even more. Kid starts to call out at his crew, saying that like they need to hurry up because he doesn't want the Straw Hats to get there before his crew, because obviously Kid wants to have all the glory and the action for himself. So now we start seeing cannonballs smash into the rebels, and it takes out a ship. The Beast Pirates are actually shooting long-range cannonballs at the rebels. Their initial shot just now was just testing the distance, and they comment proudly about how the Wano weapons are such high quality, and they start to keep firing more cannonballs at the rebels. We see Luffy, Law, and Kid comment on the tactics of the Beast Pirates, and they're just like, we gotta get closer. So while they're discussing this, we just see more cannonballs smash into the rebels. The Scabbards declare that their ships can't keep getting attacked. They don't want to lose any more ships because it's, you know, they need their men.
And we see, I guess, the commander of the Beast Pirate ship, who we keep seeing in the sea battle. And he's like, you know, you'll never be able to do anything. We're so far away. We're practically untouchable over here. And out of nowhere, we see like something catches attention. And we see a name of an attack called Spear Wave. And out of nowhere, we see just this giant beam erupt from the sea and just go through the Beast Pirate ship. And everybody on the deck is like, oh my god, there's a huge hole in the ship. And the cannons are destroyed. And we see like a huge explosion on the deck, and the rebels and the Straw Hats and everybody call out. They're like, oh my god, is there somebody out there? Like, what happened? And we see this person with an open palm, and we hear the shamisen, you know, bing, 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 bing in the background. And all of a sudden we see this person, whoever they are, say, begging your pardon. I hail from the Fishman district of Ryugu Kingdom on the bottom of the sea. I am but a humble newcomer to this group, having imposed upon folks left and right despite receiving a ritual cup from the boss of the Straw Hat crew. They call me bing, 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 Jinbei, first son of the sea. So finally we get Jinbei's reintroduction, and everybody immediately looks absolutely shook. We have Law and Kid. They absolutely just are losing their minds right now, and Jinbei's looking so cool, and Luffy just looks so pumped.
He's got literal stars in his eyes.
Yeah, so we actually see Jinbei here. He gets a real text box this time, a reintroduction. He's apologizing to Luffy for making him wait, and he's just like, hey Luffy, I made good on my promise, I'm here. We see Jinbei, he looks practically unscathed, introduced to us as Jinbei, first son of the sea, helmsman of the Straw Hat crew. And Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats are just freaking out, and that's where the chapter ends. So I definitely think we had a good one. I'm so happy to see Jinbei again. I'm so stoked. We definitely called it. So Jinbei's back. Now the question is he alone? I, for one, think he's with the Sun Pirates and possibly some other rebels, but I'm just super happy to see him right now, and I'm super happy to see that he's not like handicapped or gimped in any way. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that it's most likely that he came with someone, so he might just be like the first one that arrived, and he's kind of doing like recon, going out ahead of the rest of his fleet that he's with. I'm not sure who he came with. Some Pirates is a great thought. I mean, he's obviously the leader of the Sun Pirates, but he also kind of left the Sun Pirates, so it's like, are the Sun Pirates going to be a fleet for the Straw Hats, or will they have a new captain now that Jinbei has joined the Straw Hats? I'm not sure.
Well, I think Aladdin is the captain of the Sun Pirates now, and if they're not, they're most likely going to be allied with the Grand Fleet, so they're
Yeah,
probably definitely going to fall under that umbrella.
that makes sense.
But given that the Sun Pirates are here, I don't know if they've had a chance to reach out to the Grand Fleet actually, but there's still a chance that the Grand Fleet can show up. They all have Luffy's V-Ray card. Again, everybody thinks that when Whole Cake Island, when Luffy got poisoned by that poison rockfish that Reiju had to suck out the poison, and the subsequent battle with Katakuri and Big Mom, that his V-Ray card was doing all kinds of crap. So it would make sense that it would alert the rest of the members of the Grand Fleet.
Oh, good call. Yeah. I think that another thought is that maybe Jinbei comes with the Sun Pirates and Neko comes with one of the Whitebeard fleets. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning towards happening moving forward.
There's definitely a whole bunch of people that can show up. We know CP0 is on the island too, so we know Sword or the rest of the Marines have a potential to come to the island. Toshigi, Smoker, there's just a bunch of people that could show up, so I'm really stoked to see what happens. I'm happy to see Jinbei. So Jinbei showing up, do you think this leans more towards that this is going to be like the final battle of Wano, or do you think they're going to get wrecked here and then have to recompose themselves with more people and fight again?
Well, has Act 3 actually ended yet?
No, it hasn't. We haven't seen the closure yet. But like the shamisen was binging in the background when Jinbei went ahead and introduced himself. So I don't know if that was for drama or just a signal that maybe we're getting close towards the end of Act 3.
I think for both, but yeah, that means that, okay, so Act 3 isn't over yet. The main battle is going to be Act 4. So I think that, yeah, I don't think that the battle is going to happen until the beginning of Act 4 at the earliest. Yeah.
So as far as I understand with the structure of the Kabuki play itself, Act 3 is where you really crank up all the tension. Act 4 is like the speedy remediation of the conflict. And then Act 5 is like the rebuilding and like the sending off.
Yeah, right. So Act 4 is going to be where the battle happens, and then Act 5 is going to be the feast.
Yeah, so I think they're definitely cranking up like more tension here. I know even with like the death of Odin and these past couple of chapters with Kanjuro revealing to be the traitor, there's definitely like way more things that Oda can use to crank up the tension, and I think it's only going to get worse because like Momo just got captured. Do you think Hiyori's going to get captured?
I think that it's possible, but I'm leaning towards no because she seems really resourceful. I mean, she's been playing the part of
Komurasaki.
Yeah, the part of Komurasaki for, I don't know, 10 years? Probably less, but, about that. So I feel like she's resourceful and she's able to go with the flow and be able to hide pretty well. It's possible, though. It's definitely possible just because now that Kanjuro knows, that means that eventually, real soon, the rest of the Beast Pirates and Orochi's intel and his whole network will know. So they'll probably be on the lookout for her, knowing that she's alive and she used to be Komurasaki. So like that's two dings against her from Orochi's point of view.
Think about it too, though. Like, we've only ever seen her under like the patronage of somebody else. So like we see her, you know, Kawamatsu's taking care of her, and then we see her and Denjiro's taking care of her. So right now there's really nobody to take care of her, so she's really in a vulnerable state. I think it would be like perfect to like snatch her away just to crank up the tension even more. Like the whole Kozuki lineage has just been taken, and you know they're on the line now too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good time for her to be taken as well. We'll see what happens. Kind of want to stray off of the theories section just because we got really excited, but I kind of wanted to go over the SBS this week just because there were some interesting things that were pointed out. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over the Shimotsuki family and their timeline that Oda pointed out in the SBS. So first off, there's some famous Shimotsuki family members. The most relevant that we're familiar with is going to be Yasuie because he just perished, unfortunately, early, but he was just a really cool character. But then there's also Ryuma from, what was it called again? Wild?
Ryuma? He was from Monsters.
Monsters, that's what it was. Yeah, from Monsters and
Thriller Bark.
And Thriller Bark, yeah. So we got Ryuma, we got Kozaburo, who's the forger of Enma, and we got Ushimaru. Do you know who Ushimaru is? I didn't know who that was.
Ushimaru is the daimyo that had the fox who we thought was named Gyukimaru, or who is named Gyukimaru.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So those are Shimotsuki. So those are like actually significant people that we've already seen.
Otoko is also a Shimotsuki as well. So maybe she could be like the second coming of Ryuma.
Oh, true. Very, very true. So then we kind of see like a little timeline thing that Oda kind of goes over, and it's really cool. So it starts off talking about Kozaburo, and he forged the Enma for the Kozuki clan heir. Then it's revealed that 55 years ago from the current time, so 30 years before our flashback just now, he set off sail away from Wano and brought samurai with him, and they had kind of like a fun adventure, kind of like what Odin did a little. But you know, I think that they were their own crew. He didn't like join with another pirate crew or something. So anyway, they land in a certain village in East Blue, and they had an issue with mountain bandits, so the samurai from Wano, led by Kozaburo, were able to fend them off, and they decided to teach the villagers how to fight Wano-style samurai swords. And the villagers fell in love with the blade craft, and they just kind of decided to become disciples of Kozaburo and his samurai. And yeah, they settle and they found the village, Shimotsuki village. Turns out that Koshiro is the son of Kozaburo, and Kuina is his granddaughter. Then Oda further acknowledges that there is a chance, because it's written in the SBS, he doesn't confirm it, but he does acknowledge there is a chance that Zoro's village might have actually been, like the old geezer in Zoro's village might have actually been Kozaburo himself. So that's kind of cool. Any thoughts on this reveal, Adam?
Yeah, I think it's super cool how it ties back. Well, a lot of this is just confirmed, you know, a lot of things that the fandom has already been speculating for a while. So I think it's super cool. I think it's interesting that that Oda also pointed out that Kozaburo himself might also be like Zoro's grandfather, because he refers to him as like Kozaburo Ji-sama, so he gives him like the honorific of like a grandfather. So I think it's like super interesting. I think that the whole timeline is interesting. I also I also want to see if Denjiro ties in with this at all, because so it sounds almost like they these patriots from Wano kind of like immigrated into the East Blue, established themselves there, and gave them access to like weapons, like a fighting style. But we see like Denjiro kind of almost like did the same, where even being like a leader of the Yakuza, you know, he was still like the only protection that some of the peasants in Wano had during like the 20 years when Orochi was ruling. So I think it could definitely tie back into Koshiro and Denjiro potentially being brothers, and I think that would just be pretty awesome. There was also a couple more questions in the SBS as well, but Oda said unfortunately that's all he's going to give us for now. So there's no clarification as to whether Zoro himself is a Shimosuke or...
But if he is a Shimotsuki, then Kuina would be his cousin. Which, didn't he have a crush on her?
I don't think they had any romantic interest. I think it was more the fact that she was just a better fighter than Zoro, so Zoro kind of like looked up to her. It would also mean that if Zoro is related to Koshiro or Kuina in any way, or Kozaburo even, it would mean that he's a descendant or ancestor of Ryuma. It could also explain like the kinship he immediately had with Yasuie too.
True, and it also could mean that he's related to Tashigi, because Tashigi looks just like Kuina.
I mean, yes and no, but it's never been confirmed that Tashigi is like Kuina's relative or ancestor or anything besides the fact that they look alike. I think maybe Oda made her character design like that to kind of pay homage to like Tashigi, but I just don't necessarily know how it ties in right now. I would be interested in seeing Tashigi show up in Wano. I mean, she's the sword geek. She's got to be here, along with Izo too.
Yeah, Izo's the one that I want to see for sure. I just think that's the most fitting out of anyone who could come. It would be Izo in my mind.
Yeah, like even I don't want to skip longer here in the SBS, but Oda answered another SBS question that involved the scabbards, and he included Izo too. So I think that's like a subtle nod that if Izo's gonna show up in the story again, he's gonna show up in Wano.
For sure. So next I kind of wanted to go over the reveal that Kawamatsu is a tiger pufferfish fishman that was revealed. So last episode we talked about keycaps. There's a Fugu keycap, and now I want a Kawamatsu colorway Fugu keycap just because that sounds really dope.
I mean, he is a tiger pufferfish. I think it's interesting that he is a pufferfish fishman, and we know that Kawamatsu is a total sumo wrestler and fanboy. So it would make sense, like sumo wrestlers are known for being like big, robust, and immovable, and Kawamatsu's a pufferfish. So he just puffs himself up and suddenly, you can't affect him anymore.
Now he's sumo size.
Oh, it makes sense too, because think about it. Pufferfish, porcupine fish, they're poisonous. So he was eating those poisoned fish, for 10 years while he was in captive.
Yo, he might have some like poison built up then. I don't know if that will matter, but he probably has poison abilities if he wants.
So if he faces off against Conjure, are you saying it's like ink versus poison or venom?
Yeah, he would just have some sort of, like, if he wanted to have a venomous ability, he probably could have it. We've never seen him have one, but just the fact that naturally pufferfish are venomous, it would make sense to think that he has some sort of venom.
I mean, poison pink Reiju, she's a butterfly, okay? She's a monarch butterfly, and she's got poison powers. Why not my boy Kawamatsu?
Exactly.
He's been eating poison fish for 10 years. Pour one out for my brother.
Oh, another thing that was fun that was revealed was that, you know how Luffy calls Law a nickname? He calls him, what was it again?
Traffy.
Oh yeah, Traffy.
And now Kid's Jaggy.
Yeah, right. So Oda just revealed that Luffy doesn't remember people's names in general. Like, he just kind of gives them nicknames based on his impression of them. And then later on, if he likes them enough and they join his crew, that's when he learns their real name, and that's when he remembers them. So I thought that was kind of fun.
He remembered Rayleigh's name, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, if he has a certain level of respect, he's going to remember them. Obviously, he remembers Ace and Sabo, but they're like literal brothers to him. So
they were like his first Nakama?
Yeah, exactly. And then another thing was Oda was asked about Koshiro's favorite food and height. He ended up answering the question for all of the scabbards, including Odin. But what was interesting was that including Odin, it's called the 9 red scabbards, so you'd think that there'd be 10 total, but there's actually 12 total because he included both Kinkojo, or Kikunojo, which is Okiku, and Izo. But he also included Shinobu, and he also included Kanjuro, even though he's the traitor. So there's technically a total of 12 of them if you include Oda and the replacement ones and the honorary scabbard, which is Shinobu, that was kind of nice to see that Shinobu was listed there.
I mean, Jinbei was an honorary Straw Hat for a while, and now he's official. Shinobu, I have hopes for you.
Yeah, she's totally gonna be an official scabbard, by the end of this arc, for sure.
Okay, so if we got death flags for Kinemon and the rest of the scabbards, what if Shinobu's the only one that survives the final battle?
That'd be tragic AF, but okay, so I'm still in the mindset that this is Oda, so he won't kill people very frequently. if one's got to die, it's going to be Kinemon, but I don't think I'm still having a hard time believing that someone else will die, but we've already seen like 2 or 3 deaths this arc. So it's like it's fitting that someone else will die. So if I had to place my bets, it would be on Kinemon at this moment, just because he just stated that he's probably used up all his luck.
And
Yeah.
all right, so here's my question for you. So obviously Kaido's going to be defeated, Orochi's going to be overthrown, Momo is going to be the shogun of Wano, right?
Yes.
What is there for the scabbards to do? They've sought revenge for their master. Their whole lives have been seeking revenge for Odin. They finally achieved that. Where do they go in the story?
They're going to live their best life after that. They're going to be super happy. They're going to be loving life. They're going to do what they're passionate about. So
They're going to go skydiving. like honestly. So in this story, unless we get like a cover story of them, they're most likely.
no, man. Like, if I could totally imagine them having their happy ending, like Kiku doing some like street performance stuff, and like Shinobu just being hidden all the time.
Shinobu being hidden all the time, like, what is she gonna do? She's gonna, like, come to my store, we'll make you look older. I used to be young and beautiful, now I'm a hag, you can too, by 5 easy payments of $299.99.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, she's gonna be in like the Odin castle, or palace, whatever, just hidden, making sure that people aren't plotting to kill Lord or the new Lord Momonosuke, I should say. Not Odin Castle, but Kazuki Castle. There we go. And also she's gonna be like maybe behind the scenes for Hiyori. Like it's for one of the two, and she'll just be like protecting them, like behind the scenes. She'll be bodyguard duty, I think.
So, I mean, then what do you say of like all the death flags for the scabbards this arc? Like, honestly, I think that the scabbards are all gonna like die on the hill. Like, I think that they're gonna sacrifice themselves, and only then will Momo kind of have like a similar moment to Luffy and realize like the only thing he can do is get stronger enough, because he wasn't strong back then to protect his friends. He wasn't strong back then to protect his retainers. They sacrificed everything so Momo could grow up and lead Wano. And that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, I just see them alive. I see all of them surviving except for possibly Kinemon. Like Denjiro, he can just stay as Yakuza boss because he loves money anyway, and he'll just be happy and smiling instead of napping. He won't be napping Koshiro anymore.
Maybe he'll pilot a ship to the East Blue, which he'll meet up with his brother and hear the fate of his niece.
Yeah, maybe. And then we can have like Inu and Neko to become best friends again. Like now that Wano is saved, they're like best friends and they rule Zou together. There's a lot of like happy ending possibilities for them all.
There are a couple of the scabbards like Neko and Inu who tie into the Void Century and who tie in, shameless plug for the podcast, and who plug into like Endgame of One Piece. So I don't think that they would die per se, because we got to know what's going to happen with Zunisha. Zunisha has to be present in like the final battle. We got to know more about like why Zunisha's wandering around, what crimes Zunisha committed, and why Momo can talk to Zunisha. So I definitely think that we'll see Momo go back to Zou. But didn't Momo stay on Zou for a little while to kind of communicate with Zunisha? And like refine that power? Was it ever stated?
I don't remember, honestly. I just remember him talking with the elephant.
We gotta go back, but I'm seriously of the mind that, because having the voice of all things and hearing everything is different than physically commanding Zunisha. So Zunisha, if you don't remember, was like cast out because Zunisha committed a crime. So Zunisha was exiled and forced to wander the land for like 1,000 years, if I remember correctly. But what I'm thinking is the person who initially made this decree and like banished Zunisha is probably a Kozuki member. So this was obviously before the Void Century. So if it was a leader of the Kozukis, the ones who crafted the poneglyphs, it would make sense that Momo would have like this innate willpower, or this inherited will of the Kozuki to be able to command Zunisha.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm following.
Well, it ties into the ancient kingdom too, because I'm of the belief that all the races of the world were once in harmony with like the D clan. Like you and I have discussed this privately, but I believe that the D clan was comprised of like all races. Because when we see when we see like Roger's crew, again in this newest SBS, we get a reveal on like Roger's crewmates, and we can see how diverse his crew is. Think about it. Now the Straw Hats have like a fishman on the crew. All right, so diversity, the theme of diversity plays like a huge role in One Piece, and I like to believe that the ancient kingdom was comprised of all races, whereas the celestial dragons believe that they were superior because they themselves were humans. They didn't rely on any other races because humans are like the purest form of life. You know, they're superior to everybody else. So we see that now with the celestial dragons having like prominence over the world and control over the world, that all these other races are like discriminated against and like segregated. So I think that that's basically what the D's were fighting for. They were fighting for like this community and this unity that we see in a lot of like the ancient kingdoms. So I find it interesting that an animal that's associated with the Void Century is the home to an entire species or race in the One Piece world. And we find something similar with like Fishman Island. You know, you have the Noah, which ties into the Void Century. You have podcasts there, which tie into the Void Century. And Joy Boy, who we believe, it's almost confirmed, is like the leader of the D. You know, he wanted to make plans with Poseidon, who's an ancient weapon, who also has connections to the Void Century and the Ancient Kingdom, to liberate the Fishman and bring them up to the surface once again to bask in the sun. And that was also like Otohime's goal. So if you step back and you look at it a little bit, you can almost tie all these things together. But again, sometimes I reach for things, but I like to believe that unity is like one of the main themes of the Ancient Kingdom, and that's probably what brought about their downfall, and that's the reason why the world government hates them.
Honestly, I agree with you here in terms of the different races and the D probably being about. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here because all the celestial dragons that we've seen are human. They are all really entitled brats for the most part. And sure, like some of them, like wasn't Sabo a celestial dragon?
Yeah, Sabo's family is celestial dragons.
So some of them can still be cool, like Sabo, but yeah.
Or Doflamingo or Don Quixote homing, and Doflamingo's family, the other Don Quixotes, and the Nefertari family as well.
Oh, true, yeah. So there's some really good ones, like good celestial dragons that, are honorable, but they're the ones that kind of fell off the train a little of the norm for celestial dragons. But for the most part, they're all they're mostly entitled and just awful humans and causing the segregation of other species. So yeah, I kind of agree with you.
They sell them as slaves.
Yeah, true. Fishmen are slaves, yeah. Minks are also looked down upon.
Anybody who's not the pure celestial dragon bloodline are, they're slaves, because even Boa and the Hancock sisters were sold to the celestial dragons as slaves. Even Koala, like slavery is this huge theme in the One Piece world, and a lot of people we know were slaves.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So, I like to think that Joy Boy or the Kozuki family were the ones that banished Zunisha. And I think it's also interesting that they gave the Minks a place to live. If you remember, there's a poneglyph on Zo. And there is also an agreement between the Kozukis and the Minks that if each other is ever in danger, they fight for one another. And I think that was initially forged when the Kozukis gave Zo to the Minks to live on. That was like their agreement. Maybe the Minks fought for the D in, the battle that brought about the end of the Ancient Kingdom and the beginning of the Void Century.
Yeah, I think that it's very possible. And part of the reason that the Minks might just be looked down upon is because of their close alliance to Wano and the Kozuki family. I think that that's very possible.
So if I'm to believe that the D's were all diversity, all inclusive, like the perfect socialist society, if you will, where just everybody looks out and takes care of each other and everybody's like perfectly integrated, almost like Big Mom's dream. So how does Big Mom's dream tie into it? Because if you remember, Big Mom wants to like have one of every in each race, under her. I think the difference with Big Mom is Big Mom wants to subjugate them, while Luffy or whomever, the D, the Ancient Kingdom, just wants everybody to be all inclusive and free.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking the exact same thing just now while you were talking about the D's and how they, have they want to have all the different races represented. Yeah, I was totally thinking about Big Mom's dream, and I 100% agree with you here. I think that she just wants to control them and pretend to have like it's like a bastardized well it's just like a bastardized version of what the D want, which is unity and harmony, and she's just kind of like it's like a forced harmony. So it's not the same.
And I think, actually, think about it. So the inclusiveness of like the D and giving everybody freedom also ties into like a couple of the dreams of the members of the Straw Hats, like Sanji and Nami specifically. Sanji dreams of the all blue, where all the oceans flow into one, and you can find any fish you want because all the seas meet here. But obviously, we know that a place like that can't exist because the red line is a thing and it like blocks off the world. Also, Nami's dream is to make a map of the world, right? Frankie's dream is to sail around the world. So we find that there's like a lot of countries and a lot of places that are blocked off in the One Piece world, Wano being one of them. So I think Wano and opening the borders is like signifying that the world is going to be open and the world's going to be free, and that people don't have to be subjugated or like forced into these places where they have to like cloister themselves. Because we know that Wano was closed off during the Void Century because the world government is a thing. And if Wano didn't close off their borders, the world government was going to come and subjugate them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think we're definitely making progress, and I think we're connecting a few things together. So again, shameless plug for the podcast. We did call that Jinbei was going to show up, and I'm so happy to see that he's unharmed. And I'm just happy to say that we also called Momo standing up, being a man, standing up on his own 2 feet and actually doing something for himself for a change. So I think Momo's character growth is only going to have to get bigger. He's only going to have to show more feats of him becoming a man and manning up, if you will. So I definitely think Momo is well on his way to achieving Frankie levels of manliness. I want Mr. Pink to be proud of Momo.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yay, go us. We are getting some predictions right, which is nice. It feels good. So in the beginning of this chapter, we see all of the scabbards kind of telling Kinemon that like they know that he was wrong about his plan, and Denjiro doesn't know that yet. So how do you think Kinemon will spin this plan publicly to the non-scabbards basically? And I guess how will this work into their favor now that they have a new plan?
I think it already does, because I think even though Denjiro hasn't talked to Kinemon in like 20 years, think about it, Denjiro's aged for 20 years, whereas Kinemon has not. Denjiro knows, like, how stubborn and, how ineffectual Kinemon can be sometimes. So I think Denjiro was like fully prepared for something like this to happen. And I think that as we see the rebels are like eating it all up with like, Denjiro's like, Kinemon, throw your sword in the air, declare that this was our first battle and we won, declare victory. And we see like the rebels like eat it all up. Like the scabbards know that he like screwed up, but like they don't care. They know like, Kinemon's got a lot of luck, and they know that, everything will turn out all right, but sometimes it gets just a little too wishy-washy. Just like with Luffy.
That's a good comparison.
Like,
with Luffy.
all the Straw Hats know that their plan's going to turn out okay, but they know that when Luffy's involved, something's going to get screwed up. Something's not going to go right. Just go with the flow and everything will be okay. It's just, it's the same thing with Kinemon. So I think like the scabbards know, and like Denjiro, even though he hasn't talked to Kinemon for like 20 years, he knows how Kinemon is. So Denjiro knew that he had to spin it, so he did. So I think everything's going to turn out okay. Momo's been captured now, but I think even more so, like, Momo going ahead and declaring, like, don't come save me. I think it's really kind of like galvanizing their forces, because everybody's like, oh, our Lord, he really is a leader, and that's what we need as a leader. We might have doubted him, but we don't doubt him now.
Now we know that Intel's gonna reach Onigashima because Kanjuro is flying there with Momo captured right now. So they're gonna find out directly from Kanjuro, it looks like. I guess how will this affect the attack on the raid on Onigashima? Like, are they partying still? Because there's supposed to be a celebration. So are they drunk? Maybe. Will they be able to react in time for the Straw Hats and the Red Scabbards fleet? Or will they be taken off guard still, like unprepared because they might be too inebriated or just not ready because it was a surprise attack? What do you think?
You know what I would honestly love to see?
What?
I would honestly love to see, so everybody's inebriated pretty much at the fire festival right now except for like the scouts, like sitting around the perimeter of Onigashima, like manning it, waiting for, whomever to go bump in the night. I'd love to see the mountain boar just show up and somebody be like, "Oh yeah, this is for the festival, this is dinner for everybody." So they get them in the gates of Onigashima, and out of nowhere, the mountain boar just opens its mouth up, and everybody comes storming out, almost like the cake at Whole Cake Island.
That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, it'd be kind of like Trojan horse again.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Mountain God, by the way, excuse you.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. But it was just a baby the last time we saw it. We don't know if it's God status yet. Don't question me.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I would love to see that. Also, with the intel getting to Onigashima, so what's the worst case scenario? Okay, so the worst case scenario is they get intel and then they send like more of those flying bombardiers and more ships at them. Like, you got to think about it. Onigashima is like relatively small. Is the whole Beast Pirates force, surrounding Onigashima are the Big Mom Pirates are there. So, everybody's there, they're celebrating. Do you really think like Queen and the other headliners and everybody are going to go out immediately and just try to squash everybody? Because I don't. I think everybody's going to be, worried about getting funky and partying. How long has it been since the Big Mom Pirates and the Beast Pirates have hung out?
And you know that Queen is into some of that kinky shit.
Whoa, stop it. He is the one that keeps it funky. In the SBS too, if you haven't checked it out, Oda drew Queen if Queen was thinner, and it is definitely nightmare fuel. As you know,
yeah, don't look at it.
Yeah, Queen is a thick, fluffy boy, and he should stay thick and fluffy because he looks like a total skis ball skinny. So yeah, I definitely don't think that the intel is going to change much on Onigashima right now, because we know that if the rebels went up 1-1 against the Beast Pirates and Orochi's remaining forces right now in Onigashima, they'd probably get wiped.
Yeah, no, probably. I think that they need to be caught a little unaware at least, just because we don't have everyone arrived yet. Like, we're still gonna, it's inevitable we're gonna see Neko return with somebody. So, yeah, we don't have everyone yet. And I do think that they're gonna have an initial clash, and it's gonna look bad for our team, the Straw Hats and friends, because I think that we're gonna have a moment where Neko returns with potentially a Whitebeard fleet and save the day and reinvigorate everyone. I think that's what I'm feeling right now. We never know with Oda, but Neko has to return at the very least, unless he's captured or something, which I don't see that happening. I think that he's gonna be coming in soon and rescuing everyone from a dire situation.
He's got to go Sulong, and I'm just happy to learn that his favorite food is lasagna.
Like Garfield? Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah, I had a good chuckle at the SBS. I even blew air out of my nose.
Yeah, so anyway, do you think that... Oh wait, sorry. Go back to Kanjuro, actually. He uses a Ukiyo named attack, same as Otsuru. What's that mean?
Okay, so...
What's Ukiyo?
Ukiyo-e is a type of art style from Japanese art. So if you look at Osuru's design, she's heavily stylized with those thick lines. You ever see the old school traditional Japanese portraits of
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so the fact that he opens up with a Ukiyo-e attack that he's self-titled and Osuru's in the same style, I think that only leads further into our whole, if Kanjuro faces off against Kinemon, he's gonna, use mind games against him and draw Osuru all kind of messed up.
Yeah, no, it's possible. He already is playing the mind game like we established earlier. So
game. I think it's super cool that when we see him do that cloud attack, we see that his ink is actually coming out of his hair. And when we see Kanjuro, he was scalping dead corpses for their hair to make brushes. So what if he's actually wearing a wig of dead people's hair and it's actually a paintbrush this whole time?
I think that's literally what's going on, actually. Like, I do think that that's what's going on, and I think that we're probably gonna see more of that. We're gonna probably see him just like whipping his hair back and forth, like Willow Smith, and painting.
Big brain 9000 IQ play. He's gonna be like the Jackson Pollock of Wano.
Just like Jackson Pollock, some like weapons. I mean, he kind of already did that with like the rain of arrows.
So think about it. Like, what if he? Oh, this is a cool idea for attack. So what? If, he's a swordsman, right? But he uses a brush. So what if he can like use his brush, like his brush strokes, almost as if they were like sword attacks. So think of like a Getsuga Tensho, like a wave attack with ink.
Yeah, I think that that's plausible. We haven't seen anything like that from him, but honestly, at this point, his abilities are still somewhat unknown just because we don't, like, we know the general, I guess, general rules of his abilities, but we don't know specifically what he can do anymore just because he was really underplaying his power level. Like, I mean, like, even in this chapter, we've seen him clash with Kawamatsu, so we know that he can hold his own against a scabbard. Like, Kawamatsu is not a slouch. I'm sure that Kawamatsu he did a surprise attack. He tried to catch him unaware. Kanjuro was competent enough to realize that he was being sneak attacked and was able to parry it off. Like, I think that that means that he's pretty formidable. I think that that means that he's probably similar to Kanjuro level of fighting ability. Or sorry, not Kanjuro, sorry. Kanjuro is similar to Kawamatsu level of fighting ability. But yeah, what about you? What do you think that like that reveals some of his power level right there?
I mean, it definitely does. He's gonna have unique ways of using his devil fruit. Like, we've only ever seen him sandbag his devil fruit. We see now like he's incorporating his hair as a brush, and doing like this massive AoE attack to thwart the rebels. So I think so he's strong. He might even be like Sanji level because Kinemon was all worried for Sanji when Sanji was approaching like a cloud. So okay. Excuse me, but my boy Sanji can fly just by kicking the air. So, Kinemon, even though he's got this weird character quirk, he is a battle strategist. So he's well aware of Sanji's battle prowess. He's been with Sanji for like a long time, all the way since Punk Hazard, so he knows how Sanji fights. He's seen him in action, and even though he hasn't seen Kanjuro, bust out his real attacks, he's still like, hey Sanji, you can't take this guy right now. So I think Kanjuro is pretty strong. I think he's going to be... So Orochi doesn't have like a lot of forces under him. We know about the Beast Pirates, and we know how strong the Beast Pirates are. We don't know the numbers yet, but we've seen Queen and we've seen Jack, and we know that, Jack, even though he took on 2 scabbards by himself, he's still alive. We know there's no slouches. So we can only suspect that Kanjuro himself being like the only guy under Orochi, if Orochi's supposed to be like an equal to Kaido in this arc, then we know Kanjuro's got to be like mega strong. Because the person that we thought was like Orochi's top guy, Kyoshiro, is actually Denjiro, and he is really strong, but he's a scabbard. So do you see what I'm saying? Right. So like Kanjuro's got to be strong in order to like protect Orochi. And Orochi himself is like 8 people in one because his devil fruit, and he's got all those heads.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that Kanjuro is gonna turn out to be a sleeper in terms of power level. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Like, do
you think that he'll ever be? Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, so we see him and he busts out like this huge AoE attack. Okay, so right off the bat, first attack has the potential to damage ships and kill people, even though they saw it coming, because they saw him put the cloud up in the air. So definitely.
Yeah, we even see Sanji retreating specifically to cover Nami. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh no, I mentioned it in the review. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, okay.
Sanji's chivalry knows no bounds.
So it's like I don't know if Sanji necessarily retreated because he was in danger, because we just witnessed him taking the hits, So like I don't know. I don't necessarily buy that he's weaker than Kanjuro, but
okay,
he could still be around Sanji level. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that like that was the main reason why Sanji went back, was to protect Nami, I think.
Definitely. Do we think Sanji's wearing his raid suit under his suit right now? I'd like to think he is.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I don't know how that raid suit works. Like, will he be able to transform like Sailor Moon style?
I think so. You just gotta like toss the capsule and just poof, it's a Capsule Corp special from the Germa Double Six.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, do you think that Conjuro can be redeemed? Like, do you think that he will be redeemed? Do you think that he's gonna stay a bad guy?
I think Oda's really painting him in like this gray area now because last chapter it was like, I didn't hate any of you. I just wanted Orochi to succeed. Like, I didn't try to harm any of you. Like, we shared real moments together. I just fed him information. But now he seems like a lot more devious, and he's like really painting Conjuro as kind of like a bastard capturing Momo and stuff. But I guess we won't. He can be redeemed. He's just still in limbo right now, and I think Oda's doing that kind of like smart to make it ambiguous to keep us guessing.
Yeah, I want Conjuro to die personally because he's a Kurozumi and a snitch and just an awful being and irredeemable in my eyes. So yeah, I want him to die.
I don't so. I think Orochi's gonna die, and the older Kurozumis we saw died as well. I think in order for Wano to be at this pleasant state right now, like in order for Wano to continue with open borders, everybody has to be on the same page, and this includes the Kurozumis. So I think there needs to be a representative, someone from the Kurozumis that needs to come around and be on Momo's side. And I think it's only Kanjuro.
Yeah, and also we already witnessed that in the past it didn't work trying to just obliterate the entire family. Like that's how Orochi was born basically, was that he was persecuted by his family name and not because of what he personally did. So he became an even bigger monster than what his father was or grandfather was. So yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think that's a good point.
I think ultimately the main point of the Wano arc is going to be just you can't pay for the sins of your father. You have to make it better in the present. So, but the only way that's going to be better is not by obliterating one another. It's going to be by solving your differences, talking it out, and moving forward together. That's the only way.
Yeah, for sure.
So, no, continue.
I guess the next point what I was going to talk about was, has Luffy mastered Gear 4 yet? So we've seen that Luffy immediately transformed into Gear 4 in the last chapter when him, Law, and Kid the three of them were trying to destroy ships together. He instantly went into Gear 4 Bound Man, and it seemed very effortless and very natural for him to do. I'm leaning towards he did master Gear 4, and now I'm kind of like looking towards what the next iteration of it's gonna be. Do you have any ideas?
So, as we see with Luffy's Gear 4 techniques, we know that they all revolve around some form of haki, at least in Bound Man and Snake Man. Bound Man, we know that he enhances his springiness because of the rubber and his elasticity, but he contains it all in this armament haki shell. That's why it like drains his armament haki. So now that Luffy can go Bound Man so effortlessly, it leads me to believe that Luffy's mastered like armament haki 1.0. And furthermore, just to expand on the point, Snake Man we know is based off of Luffy's observation haki, which he used against Katakuri. I'd like to think that there is also another form of Gear 4 that's going to show its head. I believe that revolves around Conqueror's Haki. We know Luffy's named his Gear 4 transformations after, with the exception of Tank Man, we know that he's named his transformations after monsters he was training with at Ruskaina. So we also see a lion there. So I think his Conqueror's Haki-based form might be a Lion Man, and because lions are the king of the jungle, and we also saw him fight one on Ruskaina. So, but to back it up, so if Luffy goes Bound Man so effortlessly now, and it's based off of Armament Haki, I think it's safe to say he mastered Armament Haki like 1.0. So if we're to believe like Ryo putting your Armament Haki into something to influence it, I think he's going to have, another transformation, another gear, if you will, based off of this Ryo, which he just learned. But he's got to master it first. But I think that in order to get to Ryo, you have to master version 1.0 of armament hockey. So I think it's safe to say, and I think Oda might be actually hinting at it, that Luffy's kind of mastered his armament hockey. Because
Dude, imagine like a Kong gun, but he like punches someone and then like they're just like, oh, this didn't do anything. And then they realize that he just like Ryo-O'd them through their own skin. Like, I feel like that's gonna happen.
think about it though. So we see like Bounce Man, right? And we see when he goes back for his King Kong gun, he puts like his fist like in his arm. But if it's Ryo, you're basically just influencing something with hockey. So basically what Luffy would do is like shoot out like these Mega Man blasts from like an arm cannon at people.
Right.
And that's just hockey. Or if he has to be close to them, he'll just punch and like stop short. But like the force will continue through and be like a shotgun through like somebody. Like I don't.
This will basically be like Kamehameha in One Piece finally.
Yeah. So think about it. We don't. Has Luffy named like a Gomu Gomu no shotgun attack? I think it would be very fitting for that to be like his armament hockey, his Ryo, 2.0 attack name.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a shotgun one. There's just been like Gatling gun and stuff like that. I also like it was teased during the Dressrosa arc that you can have an awakened devil fruit with what Doflamingo did. So I think that that's also another next step for Luffy is his awakened devil fruit because obviously he's gonna have it and I think that he'll have it by the last battle. I don't think that it'll happen this time just because for this arc we noticed that it's gonna be the Ryo-O. So maybe in the next arc, which will probably be the final arc, he might have his awakened form for his Gomu Gomu no Mi and yeah, it's just gonna probably just turn everything into almost like a bouncy castle. Just like everywhere is a bouncy castle. Anywhere you walk is gonna be like bouncy. Like the walls will be bouncy. Like the trees will be bouncy. Like everywhere, you're just basically walking on a giant trampoline.
He's
world.
Bellamy 2.0.
Yeah, it's like Bellamy, but like better.
Okay, so I hope there's not like one more arc of One Piece left. And I know the whole fandom's been like clamoring for Luffy to get Awakening ever since it's been teased in Dressrosa. But I think Luffy's got a lot more growing up to do first before he gets Awakening. I know everybody's gonna hate on me for saying that because it's something that the fandom wants so bad. But honestly, Awakening's Luffy's endgame. So completely mastering your devil fruit as well as your hockey. Hockey is very strong and it will carry you a long way as we've seen in the One Piece world. But so mastering your devil fruit, it's just got two stages. I know it and I've awakened it. Whereas hockey, there's so many more steps. So, we've seen observation hockey 2.0 with seeing into the future. We now have armament hockey 2.0 with putting your hockey into something. We still need Conqueror's Hockey 2.0. And I think Luffy's going to master his hockey before he masters his Devil Fruit because we know it's like a huge challenge and it takes years to master your Devil Fruit. And I don't want Oda to I want him to do it right. I don't want him to retcon Luffy's Devil Fruit Awakening and just be like, oh, well, Luffy's getting his butt beat and, he screams a lot and now he awakened his Devil Fruit. I want him to do it right. I want Luffy to awaken his Devil Fruit because he's trained with it and he understands the Gomu Gomu no Mi and he did whatever he needed to do. I know there's going to have to be an adversity and this huge obstacle he needs to overcome. But in terms of the powers of his awakening, I think turning your setting into rubber at will only benefit you. I think influencing things with his armament hockey. So I think by the end game, with an awakened Devil Fruit, I think Luffy's going to be so sick. He's going to be able to punch people into walls, bounce them off of a wall, and then armament hockey up their destination. And they're just going to get blasted while he just pummels them with hockeyed up fists. I honestly think Devil Fruit Awakening is only going to enhance him because Luffy, as well as being very strong, I think one of Luffy's greatest attributes and one of his greatest strengths is he's fast. As we see with Gear 2, Luffy's one of the fastest fighters in the One Piece world, besides maybe Kizaru. But he's insanely fast, and I think his awakening is only going to enhance that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He's gonna stay fast. His His awakening is going to make him be able to bounce quicker. He's going to be understanding how he will bounce because he's so familiar with the rubber fruit, and his opponents won't be as familiar, so they won't be as comfortable bouncing around. And yeah, like you said, he's going to kind of use the world around him to maybe he'll like hit his enemy into the wall, they'll propel backwards and then bounce off of an object, and then he'll be, because they're speeding towards him after bouncing, he'll be able to hit them even harder because it's going to be like, you know, as fast as they're coming towards him and as fast as he's coming towards them, like the change in the momentum is going to hurt them even more. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying regarding how his awakened fruit might look in terms of combat. Yeah, I still think there's only gonna be one arc left, so I'm still in, like, I disagree with you, but it's okay. But I still think that it's gonna happen in the final arc, which I believe is the next arc. That he'll unlock his awakened fruit. I mean, let's be real, he's really creative. He knows his fruit really well. He's practiced with it a lot at this point, and I can't imagine any other character with his fruit. Like, we've seen some characters who have similar fruit abilities as Luffy. So we've seen Bellamy, like you mentioned, and we also seen
Katakuri.
What's his name? Yeah, Katakuri. I'm glad that you knew who I was talking about. Yeah, so we've seen Katakuri as well. Then they have very similar double fruits. But at least with Katakuri, he was just copying Luffy. He wasn't coming up with his own creativity. Bellamy did have his own creativity, but it was pretty straightforward. I don't think that he was that creative with his spring fruit. But yeah, anyway, I just think that Luffy, like, it wouldn't make for a poor story in my mind if Luffy gets it next arc, just because he knows a lot about his fruit and he's done a lot with it. Well, anyways, is there anything else that you want to talk about this
I'm
episode?
just saying, I think Awakening's Gear 5th. I think Gear 4th is utilizing his hockey more. Yeah, what I do want to talk about is, what do you think Conqueror's 2.0 is? I think the advanced form of Conqueror's, at least in my eyes, the only display we've seen of it is Shanks meeting with Whitebeard. When Shanks stepped on Whitebeard's ship, we actually see the ship itself start to splinter because of Shanks's armament, or excuse me, his Conqueror's hockey. So I think Conqueror's 2.0 is being able to physically affect things with your Conqueror's hockey. So remember at Marineford, we have that scene where Luffy's getting pounced on by like a whole bunch of people with like swords, and Luffy and Ace is about to get executed. So, you know, Luffy has that moment where he's like, you know, get off of him, don't execute him, and he starts screaming, and that's where he like unleashes his Conqueror's hockey and knocks out the executioners. So I think Conqueror's Hockey 2.0 is in that situation. Luffy like unleashes it and their weapons just get completely obliterated, and you know, they start feeling pain, maybe they start burning, but they bow. So I think Conqueror's Hockey 2.0 is being able to physically affect your opponents instead of just their willpower, being able to physically affect them with just your presence alone.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking the same thing regarding Shanks, because that's like the only thing that we've seen for Conqueror's Hockey that hasn't really been displayed by Luffy yet, is him physically affecting like material objects. So yeah, I think that that's a good theory. I think that that makes the most sense for that being the leveled up version of Conqueror's Hockey. And yeah, how like Luffy would definitely incorporate it, but that's also something that he probably wouldn't incorporate necessarily too much into his combat abilities. That's just trying to affect the area around him instead. So I don't know, maybe that for Luffy, just because he's got the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it might affect the way, like, him being able to utilize, because like anytime he gets an upgrade in his hockey, so like doing his hockey 2.0, he comes up with a new ability. So maybe that's like his way of unlocking his awakened devil fruit, is, you know, understanding the nature of objects and being able to affect them with Conqueror's hockey. Both physically shattering them if he wants to, or turning them into rubber. Maybe that kind of links up in that way. I'm not sure, but it's just an idea.
So, one more thing I just want to talk about too. So, okay, what if Conqueror's Hockey 2.0, instead of affecting things physically, is being able to manipulate people to your will. So almost like influence them. So we know Luffy already is good at influencing people. I was just thinking, so like Lion Man, okay, this Lion Man form. What if Luffy goes into this form and he's able to use Conqueror's Haki, which is able to influence like the crewmates or the people of lower will of his opponents. So for instance, if Luffy is facing off against Kaido, Luffy goes Lion Man and influences the will of like the gifters and the pleasures on Kaido's crew and forces them to attack Kaido. So, you know, Kaido's now put in this position where he's got to like attack his own men. And I think it would be interesting. So dragons are like kings of the sky, lions are like kings of the jungle. So it's a clash of kings. And we know Doflamingo himself, you know, I am the one true king. I have Conqueror's Haki. He was all, you know, high on himself because he had Conqueror's Haki. And Doflamingo was the puppet master. What he wanted to do was like influence people. But what if Doflamingo, in like being a puppet master with his string fruit, just illustrated that he really wasn't the one true king because he didn't have Conqueror's 2.0, which is actually influencing people. As we know with Mihawk's statements about Luffy at Marineford, like he's the most dangerous person because he makes friends, he can influence people easy.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's a big threat for the world government because they don't want someone who can influence. And they already were able to rein in Garp. So Garp works for the world government. You know, obviously he won't listen to them for everything because we've seen him work with pirates in the past. But for like, in their mind, they have a reign on this strong-willed and influential person. So Garp's son, though, they don't have a rein in on him, and like you said, Dragon, King of the Sky. I like it. I like it. And he doesn't like he's got the biggest bounty in the entire world because he's the biggest threat to the world government. He's that influential, and this is like a scary man. Like you think of Monkey D. Dragon. And you think like, oh my God, this guy is scary. I'm afraid of him. I'm kind of going on a tangent right now, so I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, so we see Dragon and like the world government doesn't control him. And this is like, that's kind of like a huge threat to their organization as Dragon. And then we see Luffy and he's kind of an in-between. He's still very influential like his father and grandfather, but he's more friendly. He's got like a nicer, happier demeanor. He's not scary and intimidating. Like both Garp and Dragon are both intimidating for different reasons, but Luffy is just kind of friendly, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and that's kind of like almost the scariest version of influencing because it's someone that you can let your guard down with and really follow and believe. And I think that he's gonna cause issues for the world government, and they're only now realizing like, oh crap, the son of Dragon is even scarier for us than Dragon himself. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm thinking that we are going to get to that point with the world government. Anyway, I got off track. I don't remember what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that this influencing people could be Conqueror's Haki 2.0, and we see Luffy illustrating Conqueror's Haki before he knew what it was. So it only makes sense that maybe Luffy being able to rally people and bringing them over to his side and influence them is just him actually utilizing Conqueror's Haki 2.0 without realizing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's I think that that's just charisma. People just have it. I don't know if that's necessarily Conqueror's Haki 2.0, just because people with no sense of hockey can still influence people. I don't know. It's possible, but I'm leaning towards no.
I mean, but hockey itself is just an embodiment of your willpower. So if your willpower
So
is so
maybe
strong,
the will of the
obviously you're
D
going to
is the
influence
strongest
people.
form of hockey because it's lasting multiple generations.
Bum bum bum. Maybe the poneglyphs are actually indestructible because they're imbued with people's willpower, and maybe that's the whole reason why people who have the voice of all things can actually hear them, because the willpower is imbued in the stone.
Nice.
Actually, that's probably
I
exactly
don't
what
know.
it is. Can it
Sure,
speak
yeah,
about it?
talk about it. Go for it.
No, I'm just saying. So we see poneglyphs are primarily like the same color of people's hockey. We know that the Kozuki family, you know, Odin is the only fighter we've seen from the Kozukis. He's the only one that we've actually seen craft a poneglyph. Okay, massive amounts of hockey. We see that pretty much anything that's hockeyed up is indestructible. Hockey itself is just an embodiment of somebody's willpower to protect or reinforce something, i.e. the poneglyphs. And maybe when the poneglyphs are just like swords, swords have a spirit. We've seen swords that are kokuto, black blades, so they are imbued with somebody's willpower. Zoro speaks to his sword, okay? Zoro feels the spirit of his swords, the willpower imbued in his swords, even Ryuma's blade. So what I'm saying is, these poneglyphs were crafted with haki. They're made with willpower. Somebody had to pour their willpower into it, their hopes, their dreams, their beliefs into this poneglyph. And maybe by having the voice of all things, even though you can't read the poneglyphs, you're just real perceptive to other people. You're an empath. You're real perceptive to other people's thoughts and feelings. So you come across this object which is literally imbued with like emotional energy, and you can't read it, but you can feel it and you can understand
so
it.
I think that theory is actually legit AF. I like it a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm gonna go with that's headcanon for me now because it makes so much sense. Yeah, like the fact that hockey is like, our poneglyphs are almost indestructible and they're made of hockey. It just makes so much sense to me. So yeah, kudos. I agree with this.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. So I think we'll just go out with a bang because I don't have anything more right now that I'd like to share.
Well, thanks again for joining us for the Void Century podcast. You can catch us on your favorite podcast listening device or channel, platform, YouTube, email,
Instagram. Check us
Twitter.
out at Void Century PC on Instagram or Twitter. We're on iTunes. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere you want to find us. Yep. If you want to send us an email, check us out at the Void Century Podcast at gmail.com. And thank you for sailing with us.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.